Hey y'all, welcome back to the internet. This is Design 264 with Avery. In today's tutorial, we are back in Blender. We're going to do pixel art with Blender. I looked at some other tutorials on YouTube. They're lovely. Maybe I'll include them in the description. But this one specifically works with this template that will also be in the description that you should use. Okay, because you should use it because there's some certain things that I set up in it. So here you are, here's the template as it's set up. I just want to point out really quickly, I figured out how to do a keystroke. So those will be down here. This represents my mouse. You'll also see, like, for example, like that was a left mouse click, then a right mouse click, right mouse wheel, cool, you get it. It's all going to be there. So it'll just be helpful for you all. Now, here we are in the pixel art, the Blender pixel art.blend document. We have I want to point out a 64 pixel by 64 pixel camera here. And we're going to start out here in the Sketchfab one. So here it is. I want to make sure that's highlighted in the Sketchfab collection right here, looking at the outliner, right? Cool, we're on the same page. Other thing I want to point out is that right now it's 8 frames per second. You can up that if you want, but this will give us that kind of pixel art look of a hand-rendered animation that is 8 frames per second of animated material. So like a little clunkier. Normally it's 24 frames per second. That's what we're used to seeing in like video, or 30 frames, 29.97 frames per second. But this is going to be 8 frames per second, and that'll help contribute to that kind of pixel art look. You can up it to 12. You can go down to 3. But this is where you would make that adjustment right here in this icon that kind of looks like a printer. That's called the Output Properties tab. Okay, and you'll see that reflected. If you change it, you'll see that reflected down here in the timeline in the light gray area. The light gray area represents the length of the clip. So it starts at 1 and it goes to 8. Anyway, so we're looking through the camera. We're in Eevee. Okay, our camera is orthographic. Eevee is a little bit different than Cycles, but leave it. We'll give it a shot. It'll work great for this. And remember, we're at 64 by 64, so all the work is done for us. Now let's jump into Sketchfab and just bring in an object, and then we're going to make a rotating pixel art GIF using Blender and Photoshop. So if you don't have Sketchfab up, remember it's in Preferences. You would go into the Add-ons tab, you search for Sketchfab plugin, and then make sure that's clicked. Cool. So then it's here, and remember our login credentials are my email address, right? And then our president's last name, the president of the institution, G-U-T-M-A-N-N, all capital, and then 1, 2, 3 $signs. Boom, logged in. Okay, so we're gonna bring in a cow. Any of these models, we want them to be small, just because otherwise it's just gonna get too much to work with. So this one's 1.17 megabytes, lovely. We'll pop it in. It will, the center of origin for that model will be plopped in at this origin point right here that's centered into our camera. But where is it? Good question. Let's zoom out, and there you can see it. So here it is. It came in as cow. We can click the collection, but that won't actually select the object. We want to click on cow, and you can see that we see the hooves right there. It's very big, but we can just hit S for scale and scale it in. S for scale and just drag it in. It helps when you're scaling if you're kind of like away from your origin point here, away from the origin point of the object, and then S, and then scale it in. And that will be good. I can move it down some. So I toggled these off, but if you like those widgets, or the gizmos they're called, you can click up here. Right here, an active object, but I'm gonna leave them off because I know that I can hit G to move, I can hit Z to lock it along an axis and move down. You all can't see my little things are covered up right now. So I'll close that by hitting N. N closes this panel over here. So again, G and then Z locks it along the Z axis, up and down, cool. And then I'm just going to rotate this thing to make sure it fits when it's going to do the 360. So just a little test. So R for rotate, Z to lock it along the Z, and then yeah, that fits in that direction, that fits in that direction, that's lovely. And now I'm going to open up the this panel over here and go to item, so that's the N panel, right? This right over here. I'm going to item because I'm going to keyframe this jam. So 8 frames, the first frame is as it is, so I'm going to hit I, and I'm just going to do rotation. So rotation. So I on the keyboard sets that first keyframe. So there's the keyframe. You can see it represented right there in our timeline. And then I want to change, actually, let me go back. Sorry, y'all. We want to change this rotation, not from quaternion, but we want to go to XYZ Euler. So that's big. XYZ Euler if it's on quaternion. Quaternion. You get it. We're doing great so far. So this is what we want to be keyframed. XYZ Euler. We're going to rotate around the Z. So back into our where's this thing called? Viewport display window. Make sure our cow is selected. Let's just do location, rotation, scale, just so everything is keyframed. And then we're going to jump. So we're going to do 360 degrees, but we don't want it to have this like weird kind of stop, like a little like a duplicate frames. So we're actually going to go to frame 9. And at frame 9, we're going to do 360. So rotate is R. Around the Z, I'm going to type in 360. And then hit I for the keyframe. Let's see how it goes. Nice. You see that? It's working. So the way that this animation is interpolated right now, I can show you in the graph editor. It looks, it's just, essentially they're curves. I don't remember how to make this, shrink it in. They're essentially curves, y'all, and we want it to be vectors. And that'll just make it spin nicely. So we can just, with it selected, we can, in this area, we can hit V, down in the timeline, hit V, then click vector, and now you'll see it's a little bit different the way that it spins. So that's what you probably are going to want for your spinning thing. Just a constant rotation. No changes in velocity. It's just rotating. Awesome. Now we can render it out, right? So let's just look at a sample render image. It's very small because it's 64 by 64. There it is. There's our render image. This in the Sketchfab, you have a Sketchfab spotlight right here. So if you want it to be brighter, you're gonna unclick right here, so it not movable. Actually, you might not even need to do that. And then you can come, so Sketchfab, the spot Sketchfab, which is the light on this, it's a spotlight on this, and you can up it to like 1,000, make it brighter, 1,000 watt. You can change the color, right? So you have options there. So I'll leave that to you. I'm gonna make this, let's split the difference, 750. Cool. All right, so let's render out an animation. But in order to do that, right, you all haven't done this before. You need to know where your files are going. So again, back to this printer icon, click on this. So this is our output. Everything is good here. We definitely want PNG. The color depth 8 is great, but we want to know where these files are going. So click here. And I'm going to go just to downloads, make a new folder. So you can just do cow, or whatever you got going on. Click in your folder. So I clicked up here for the new folder, then I clicked in my folder, and then you can just name it down here. And it will be like 001, 002, so you can add an underscore right there. So cow, oh, can you all not see that? Right there. So cow underscore is a great kind of like naming convention in order to have your numbers and it be legible. And then you accept. So now it's ready to go. You go to render animation, and it did it. Sweet. Now we have those files, and we can jump over into Photoshop. Here we are in Photoshop. So we are going to import all 8 of those images as layers. And the way we do that is File, scripts load files into stack. Bring up the window here. So we're going to use files. Let's browse for them. They were in downloads. It was in cow. And then we select all of them. So click one, shift click. Okay. And we're ready to go. And it'll take a second. It's running a script. Just, we're going. Almost there. Great. So now you can see 1 through 8 are here. It might be reversed from what you wanted, but I'll show you how you deal with that. So we're going to create a frame animation. If it's for some reason it says video timeline, or actually even if for some reason it's not there, you go to Window, Timeline, and it'll bring up this. And you want to make sure it's a frame animation. And now what you're going to do is go to this window right here. Oh my gosh, of course it's not going to be visible, but I'll bring it all the way up so you can see. And you're going to make frames from layers. Sorry, it took me a while to find that. And boom, did you see what happened? Like magic, all of these layers that are over there went and joined our frame animation over here. So I'm sort of in our way for you to see this, so I'm going to move this window right here. So this is the edge of my Photoshop window. So what we're going to do now is grab all of these. So they're 8 frames, right? And we want it to maybe go for a second. So 8 frames per second is 1 divided by 8. So 1/8, so 1.25. So no, we can do other. Sorry, 0.125. 0.125. So you click on one, shift click on all of them, and then come down to here, this little arrow, and you will get, oh my god, all of the drop-down windows are disappearing on us when I click on them. You'll get this, you can click on other, and then you can enter in 0.13, right? Just to round up, so 1/8 of a second, more or less. And then, I'll leave this here, you can hit play. But you can barely see it, right? So if you hit Control or Command 0, you can get a zoom in. And then you go. You have a spinning pixel art object that was easy peasy to make. How do we turn this into a GIF? You all know these steps. So I'll just say first, you can come into each one of these and clean it up. So this is where you're doing the juggling between the frames and the layers. But like say if you didn't like that pixel right there, like that's how the computers figured it out. You can make sure you're on frame 6, right? So we're going to come here where it's highlighted. That's how you know with the eye toggle there. And we can just come in and clean it up. So if we hit the eraser key, oh, this is where I was having gosh dang issues before with my eraser. And someone needs to help me figure this out. Maybe this will work. Oh my gosh. Do you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. Why is this happening to me? Healing brush. I just want you to erase. Background eraser. No. Just an eraser. Anyway, you all still don't have to struggle with this with me. I don't know why my eraser is being so silly Billy. But usually you should just be able to do this. Hit the eraser tool. Make sure it's set to mode is pencil. And it should just erase. I don't know why it's not erasing. If anyone figures this out, please let me know. I'm going to Google it. And then you go to, so once you've made modifications as you see fit, you can use the pencil tool, which is under the brush tool in case you forget, pencil tool, and you can draw on each one of these frames. Really cool. So file, to get your GIF, file, export, save for web legacy. When this window pops up, so this over here is just the kind of like the viewer. 64 by 64 is great. You want this to be 100% right here. and you want your quality to be nearest neighbor. That way it won't do any anti-aliasing. When it gets bigger, like it will stay as it is. The pixels will each, one pixel will occupy one space in the pixel breadth field. So that's great. Forever looping is great. Save it out. You have a cow GIF. Okay? And then you can preview that by just dragging it into a browser. So where are we at? Oh, 15 minutes. Y'all, before we go, I just need to show you the other thing that exists in this Blender document. So I'm going to reduce the sketch fab, and then I'm coming over here. You may have noticed that we have a sculpture on option. So let me click on that window, or on that camera. So remember to highlight your camera, make that the active camera. So if you click on the green icon, that's part of the camera. And this looks weird. What is this? Well, it has a very specific shader to it. It is this sculptable object. I brought this from one of our other templates, but it's essentially a sphere with nice topology upon which you can sculpt. So that was me going into edit mode, but we want to sculpt in, well, actually we want to sculpt in sculpt mode. So let's do that really quickly. I can come here and sculpt. Let's say I don't want symmetry. So come up here, remove the symmetry. If you want it, that's where you toggle it on and off. I'm gonna make this panel go away by hitting N. And so you can see those keys down here too. And right now I just have the draw tool. So I can draw on it. F to make my tool bigger, right? F to make it smaller. Shift F to like increase the strength of my tool. And those are also up here. So the strength and the radius. You can play with these tools, the sculpting tools. I really hope you have. They're just so much fun. And that's great. I think this is actually exactly what I want. Just a reminder too, if you hit the tilde, which is to the left of the 1, you can pull up this here, and then you can select from different views. So I'm now in I toggle out of the camera view. If I hit the tilde, come here, I can just click on the camera view. And then I'm gonna do a little bit more sculpting. Yes, just a little bit. And now I'm gonna come back from the viewport shading, the solid viewport shading, to the rendered viewport shading. And now you can maybe see what craziness is going on with this cool toon shader. So with my object selected, I wanna make sure it's set to shade smooth, which it is. And then I'm going to come to this material tab right here and just sort of show you what's going on. So if this is, it's essentially like compressing shadows into really narrowly defined regions. So instead of having this like blend of a shadow, the computer's trying to create harsh lines, and it's doing a decent job. And you can move it. So, this would be the lightest area. You can kind of move it, make it bigger. You can also, if you click down here, you can change the color, adjust like this sort of mid-range. If you want to add another color to it, hit that, hit the plus button. You can drag that where you want, where you see fit, and then come in here. It's gonna kind of like mess with these colors. I don't really like that, so I'm gonna erase it. Oh, I kind of dig this. I want my black to be less this kind of, yeah, oh yeah, ooh, okay. Okay, where are we at? All right, we're getting to 19 minutes, y'all, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. But this is an awesome thing to do, mess with this toon shader that I'm calling it. And then if you just hit the negative sign, erase it, and you can use the normal shader, it will come up. And that's that principled BSDF, and you'll see all your options will be down here. Just play with that. But this is to maybe get kind of like a pixel art toon effect, right? Where you have like just a few colors you're working with. So let me just show you really quickly what this would look like rendered out. Yeah, right? It looks like pixel art. So let me just really quickly animate this. So same thing, make sure it's called Sculpt Me. The sculpture I made is selected. Hit I for location, rotation, scale. Make sure we want to be an XYZ Euler. And then again, I'm going to go to frame 9, not frame 8, because I want it I don't want it to have this double frame at frame 1 and frame 8. And then I'm going to hit, or I can just come up here. So I'm at frame 9, come up here, hit 360, type it in, it has done it, I promise. And then we hit I, location, rotation, scale, and there we go. And then again in timeline, let's hit down here. So hover your mouse down there, hit V, and then vector, and we'll get that sort of a constant spin effect that we all desire. And then it's the same thing. Render. You might want to use the printer icon again and create a new window or a new folder. So let's say this is sculpture. Did I spell it right? Sure. And then once you make it, then you have to actually click into it and then write sculpture. And then the underscore is a great thing to have and remember. And then accept. PNG is great. We want that alpha, so RGB alpha. And then render animation. It all happened. I'm just going to reiterate that process because we're at 21 minutes. I just want to show you really quickly. So file, scripts, load in files into stack. Files we want, browse. We're not the cows. We want the sculpture. Select them all. Okay, there they all are. Okay. And now the script is working. I might as well just say, this is going to take 20 seconds. It's almost done. One more frame. Watch. Just be patient. You're already in double speed. And I'm talking like this. Okay. Create frame animation. I'm going to hit Control, the command, if you have a Mac, 0. Oof, looks good. And then make frames from layers. And then I'm going to shift click. I'm in the way again. Watch this. So 1. Shift click to 8, and then what do you else want to set this? Let's just do 0.0, 0.1. Cool. Cool. Really cool. Super cool. Oh, there I am. Okay. Yeah. So you'll get it. You can sculpt away, and you've got this great pixel art. You do the same thing to file, export as, save for WebGC, and then you have this dope ass pixel art situation. Okay, so 22 minutes, not that bad, right? If you're doing double speed, what is it? 11. All right. Have a great day. Bye.